For those of you who have been with me since 2018, thank you so much for joining me on this journey. And for those of you who are new, thank you so much. I hope we continue to grow in our spirituality together.
If you would like to learn about fairy folklore, delve into modern fairy faith spirituality, and explore fun and fanciful fairy-themed events, please subscribe to Fairy Fortunes for new videos every Friday.
Hello, my fair friends. I'm Ruby Ruse, and welcome to Fairy Fortunes. I am very excited, and I have made it finally to 500 subscribers. That may not seem like a lot in the grand scheme of things, but it's a big deal to me. And for all of you 500 people out there that have been with me on this journey, thank you so much for your support. It was suggested to me that I should do a makeup tutorial for the Ruby Ruse fairy makeup that I do at festivals. So that is what I'm going to be doing today. I just want to let you all know, though, that I am not a makeup artist at all. I just like makeup. That's it. That's all. And while I do my makeup, I thought I would talk about some of my favorite videos that I've made since 2018. Now, most of the time when I'm wearing my full fairy regalia, it's in the context of doing festivals, which means these have to be ironclad. They have got to be on my face and going nowhere through incredible heat and humidity most of the time. I don't wear foundation. It just is pointless because you're sweating so much out there in the hot summer months that it just melts right off your face. I do, however, use concealer, and the one that I really love right now is Maybelline. Maybe it's Maybelline. It's Maybelline Fit Me Concealer in shade number 10. I don't use concealer all over my face. I do have my mirror here, so bear with me as I use the mirror. I do a dot on my sunspots. I just have some discolorization right here on my under eye, so I just do a little line there. Also, I like to have my eyes lifted a little bit, so I do a little lift on the side there. And then it's very common for older women to get a little bit of redness around the sides of the nose. It's broken capillaries in the skin. It's just somewhat a normal process of aging. So I do a few dots of concealer around my nose. I do have a scar here from an accident when I was a child. I don't mind my scars. I feel like they're battle wounds, so I don't bother covering it up. I'm starting to get some nasal folds here, so I just do a little dot of concealer inside the nasal fold. And I also have a little bit of a jowl forming, so I do a little bit of a dot inside the jowl area. And that's it. That's all the concealer that I do. Then I use a Real Techniques makeup sponge and just use that to blend all of this out. When I do the jowls, I also have some frown lines, but it's too heavy to put concealer inside that. So when I do that little jowl divot there, I just use whatever's left over on my sponge to dab that corner of my mouth where I have that frown starting. I do the same thing with my nose. I don't put anything directly on my nose because it just rubs off and looks bad. So I just tap my nose with whatever's left over on my sponge because I do have a little bit of redness on my nose. I leave my eyes to the last. It's just a personal preference. There's really no major reason why I do that. With my under eyes, I just keep it right in that fold there where I have the bag starting. All right, concealer is done. That's it. That's the only base foundation I wear is just concealer in little tiny areas. That's it. My favorite videos to make are actually the American Fae videos, where I actually travel to a particular state in the United States, do an investigation of a popular cryptid that's in that location, and then compare that to various pieces of folklore from around the world. And the reason I started making this series is that as I was researching folklore, I came across a lot of writings that America doesn't have any fairy creatures. And I'm like, I kind of disagree with that. So that was the whole point of the series. I love doing that research. I love doing the traveling. It's just a great experience all the way around. But I would have to say that my favorite video in that whole series is my video on the Wisconsin lake monster. So what I'm doing now is I'm actually using some liquid lipstick. My very favorite brand of liquid lipsticks is actually Stila, which you can only get, I think, in Ulta stores. I used to use Amore, but there's also the shade of Valentina. Of course, the label is currently missing off of this one, so I don't know if this is Amore or Valentina. Because I'm going to be doing an elaborate eye look, I like to do my cheeks first. And like I said, everything with the fairy makeup is done to make it ironclad to survive really intense heat and humidity, sweat, all of that. So I'm actually going to use this as a blush, but a little of this goes a very long way. I actually only use it on the very upper part of my cheek. I don't use the apple because that's going to make my face look droopy. 2 dots. That's all you need of this stuff, truly. So with the American Fae video in Wisconsin, the Wisconsin lake monster, I think the reason that that's my favorite is that I was really excited about the location. I used to be an avid hiker when I was younger. I went to Devil's Lake State Park in Baraboo, Wisconsin. Highly recommend this. It's a really beautiful location. You can just spend hours inside of this park. It's wonderful. But on top of that, it's a very popular location. So I had all of these people that were walking by as I was doing the video, and you know, they all were very interested in what I was doing. So, and I had such a good time that I left all of the blooper reels in there where people were like, oh my, because it was just so much fun and it felt so interactive. It was just a great time. Now my face is super, super dry. I don't need a lot of powder on my face. You know, all of the YouTubers that I follow for makeup are, oh, I'm so oily, I'm so oily. I have no oil production hardly at all. So I don't need to use powder. The powder just intensifies the color and really keeps products where I want them. And the cheeks really can kind of fade throughout the day, especially, you know, in really high heat. So I just like to really deepen that color. I don't know what shade this is. I'm sorry, it's just a bright pink with sparkle in it. That's all I got for you. You can see how well loved this is. I've hit pan. I use products until they die. I probably should worry a little bit more about expiration dates. I'm just using an eyeshadow brush because I don't need like a full blush. I just want to touch up the color a little bit anywhere where it's like a little light or it's a little streaky. Now I have another Stila product. This is their Diamond Dust liquid eyeshadow. A fairy can never have too much glitter. I'm just saying. So I use this I will use it on my eyes, but I also use it as a highlighter. I'm just going to tap this at the very highest point of my cheekbone. I don't like face primers, but I have learned that eyeshadow primer does make a difference. So I am gonna go in with an eye primer. I use a tiny, tiny bead for each eye. Right now I'm using Hourglass's eye primer. It's really not my favorite. If you have an eye primer that you like, please let me know what it is, because this is adequate. It's not all that. I take the eye primer and I tap it on my eyes. I stick to the middle, I go all the way up to my brow, and then I just at the very end tap the corner. I've noticed that eye primers really get dry on that inside corner of my eye and kind of brings out the wrinkle. So I just use very, very little eye primer on the very inner corner of my eye. If you haven't already guessed, I'm extremely passionate about divination. My video on the categories of divination, I just really enjoyed doing the research on that, really enjoyed gathering up all of my personal divination tools. So while my eyeshadow primer dries, I'm just gonna go in with a brow pomade. This is the Dip Brow Pomade from Anastasia's Beverly Hills. This is in the shade Chocolate. When I was younger, my brows were much thicker than they are now. I actually didn't really overpluck them in the 90s. It's just an age thing. For some reason, women tend to lose eyebrow hair as they age. So there's that. So my eyebrows used to be very, very dark, and when I was younger, my hair was much lighter. My eyebrows looked almost black against my light colored hair and my very fair skin. So the color chocolate might be a little bit dark for some people, but I just like the look of those darker brows. I learned this technique off of TikTok. I did. Is I just line the under portion of my brows, and I like to bring my brow to match the corner of my eye. And then I just underline the bottom of my brow. It just creates a nice baseline shape. And then I'm gonna brush my eyebrows down, make them look a little crazy. And then I'm just gonna create another line, really mapping out and replacing that missing brow. This video is just meant to be fun for my wonderful 500 subscribers, but if you're an older woman over the age of 40, I'm actually in my 50s, this might be helpful to you. So I'm just filling in now that tail of up until the arch of my brows. I don't really do anything crazy. I just replace what's missing on my eyebrow, but the arch I kind of leave alone. It's where my eyebrow hair naturally comes up to. So I don't worry about like mapping it on my eye. I just follow where my natural hairs grow. So now that I've got that end filled in, I'm just gonna brush back my hairs to where they should be, and then I'm just gonna fill in and just make those brows a unified color. So now that I have my eyebrows on, what I like to do is I use just a tiny bit more of that concealer to really carve out the brows, fix any mistakes that I made. I think the most important is doing it on the upper part of the tail, because I've noticed that if I skip this step, that the brows start to feather and look weird towards the end of the day. But for some reason, if I go in with concealer and create, like, I guess a barrier, I don't know, but it looks better. Now I'm going in with just an Ulta Beauty brand of eyeshadow. It's called Coconut, and I'm just gonna place that all over my eyelid, and I even smooth out the concealer that I put up along my eyebrows. Once I've placed this flesh-toned eyeshadow on the lid of my eye, if I have any creasing with my concealer, I just go in and smooth that out with whatever is left over on the brush that I'm using. And that is all the powder that I need, because I am that dry. So if you are not an oily person and you are over the age of 40, like, don't even waste your money. I say, you don't need powder. You don't need it. Now we're getting to the eyes, and I'm gonna do something a little controversial. There's gonna be a couple of controversial things in this video, makeup-wise. So I have Scotch tape. I know, Don't come for me. Don't hate me. Don't hate on me. And I'm going to use, plain Scotch tape, and I'm going to put Scotch tape to mark out where I want my eyeliner to go. I know. It's not, people say this is bad. I'm going to do it anyway. It just makes eyeliner easy, okay? Especially if you're older and you want to do a winged eyeliner. It's really hard to like work with the folds of your eye. So if you use tape, it just makes it easier. I'm sorry, but it is. And then that Urban Decay pink, I'm just gonna go in with a ton on my brush. Yeah, you're not supposed to use sparkle eyeshadows for your transition color. Whatever, do whatever you want, you know? Makeup, it washes off, people. Wear what you want, no matter how old you are, you know? Like, let people wear makeup the way they want to wear it. Don't worry about how old they are or what the trends are. You do you, you know? Anyway, this is going to go in the crease, and I can be kind of crazy with it because I put the tape down, and then I'm taking it way up past my eye here. Like, I'm taking it kind of into my hairline. It's going to look awful while I'm doing it. I'm just taking the edge of my brush and just really creating a nice tail on that side there. I leave about a quarter of an inch, I guess, of free space. And I just make it really super pink. Anyway, I was going to tell you about my next favorite video. My next favorite video that I did was actually a recent video, and that was my video on consent. I was watching TikTok one day, and people were talking about consent on there, or rather it was actually the lack of consent, doing this weird thing called forced healing. It was so bizarre. So I was like, I gotta make a video about this. So a lot of my non-scripted ones are like kind of rants, which, but I was really proud of the consent video because I was really passionate about that topic. I think it's an issue that especially young witches kind of are confused about sometimes or have questions about. So I just was really proud of that video. And I think that that video really hones in on what I was trying to accomplish with that new like riffing format. Nobody's face is perfectly symmetrical. So I have much more room between my eyebrow and my eyelid on my right eye than I do on my left eye. So it is what it is. And also one eyebrow is higher than the other. It's just the way that my face is. So I don't worry about trying to correct it. I just go with what I have. So now I'm going in with a buxom color. I don't remember the name of this color. It's a deep purple. Purple is a good color for most people. Most people can wear purple, and especially if you have green eyes, purple is a great color to wear. This is going to be my crease color, and I love cut creases, but I just, for whatever reason, I cannot master that effect on my own eyes. So what I've started doing is a half cut crease. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that tape line as a guide to create a wing within my wing here. And then this is also going to go into the crease and really deepen that crease. I don't do that windshield wiper motion now that I'm older. That just doesn't really work for me anymore. So I do more of a tapping effect to place products now. And with fairy makeup, it's all about extremes. So I do like the sharp edges when I'm doing fairy makeup. So there's not a lot of softness going on with this look. I'm just saying. I think you can find really great brushes at really affordable prices in drugstores. I don't think that you necessarily need like expensive applicators. put your money in the products. I use a lot of Urban Decay and I use a lot of Anastasia Beverly Hill products, and those are like, they're not like the super expensive ones, but they're a little more higher end than like, oh, I don't know, Maybelline. Maybelline is awesome though, love that. Trust the process. I know it looks weird now, but it's gonna look better in a minute. I do like that extreme wing, so I don't do a lot of like blending there, but I'm just gonna touch up that center portion of my eye. I really like to have that really extreme pink color, very, very visible. And now we're gonna do the cut crease. It's so exciting. I'm gonna take that really tiny concealer brush again. I don't know, I couldn't find another one. Like this actually broke and I like put it back together with hot glue. Because I really, really like this tiny concealer brush, and I didn't want to go and buy a new one. I know. It's sad. I'm so frugal, it's almost ridiculous. Cut creases are hard, so I will tell you about my next video after I do this cut crease. So the whole point of cut creases is you're just creating a very clean line on your lid between the crease color and the lid of your eye. Some people like to bring it up higher to make their eyes look really, really big, and God bless them. I wish I was as skilled as they are. I'm not that skilled. So I tend to follow the natural lid, which is challenging in and of itself. But the reason I really like this brush is it's really got a really nice flat edge on it. And I use that flat edge to create a super sharp line on my lid. And once I put the color over that, it's gonna make my eyes look really bright. In theory, large, but in my case, maybe just bright. So now that I've laid down the concealer, I'm gonna go in with another Buxom color, and it's just a very bright white color. This is from an Urban Decay palette. I really love this very flat eyeshadow brush. It's great if you want to really pack color on into a very particular area. Buxom is okay. I really like this purple color, but Buxom is not my favorite brand, but it's what I'm using now. Because why? I use products until they die. And I put a lot of this white on, a lot. And before I move on to another product, I'm just gonna take that same white and place it underneath my eyebrow. This is kind of an 80s thing to do. I mentioned I'm over 50. So I'm an 80s girl. It was very common in the 80s to have a very shimmery light color right underneath the eyebrow. That's not a very popular trend now, but I really like it with the fairy makeup. It's not very in fashion now. I don't care, I still do it. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a very tiny eyeliner brush. This is a more fluffy eyeliner brush. I'm just gonna take a little bit of that Buxom purple and I'm gonna go in and really refine the line of that crease so that cut crease is super, super sharp. That way, because I don't go above my natural lid, like I don't make my eyes look bigger than they are because I just am not that talented, by really deepening that line, it kind of helps that effect and makes up for my lack of skill. Okay, that's not bad. That's not bad. This is another Urban Decay product. This is a lighter purple shimmer, and I'm just gonna go in with that Anastasia Beverly Hills brush, really load that up, and then I'm just gonna blend between the white and the purple to make that a little softer. And this is like the perfect transition color to really blend those out. And then it also like adds a little bit of shimmer to that buxom purple color. I just really like that. Because you can never have enough glitter as a fairy. You just can't. This is going to come back into play many times. Once again, this is the Stila liquid eyeshadow in Diamond Dust. And I'm just going to dab that over the white to really put some sparkle. So my next favorite video also has to do with divination, and that was my video on the Ouija board. And before I continue talking about the Ouija board video, I'm gonna do something controversial again. This is controversial. So I don't necessarily recommend that everybody does this because this can be pretty damn dangerous. So I use a lighter, and I take my eyelash curler and I do 2 passes on the inside and 2 passes on the outside. And then I curl my lashes. I know, don't do that. It's dangerous, don't do it. The reason I do that is that my eyelashes actually tend to fall into my eye. So if I use a little bit of heat on them, it just helps lift them up and helps them keep their shape longer during the day. So now I'm going in with eyeliner. I have switched to gel liner. If you are over 40 or into your 50s and you want to do a winged liner, I personally think that gel liner is the way to go when you're older. I'm going to go in with a really fine and thin eyeliner brush. This is Bobbi Brown in black ink gel liner. Highly recommend. But going back to the Ouija board video. Now, growing up in the 80s when I was in high school, it was like a normal thing to have a Ouija board. It was. Like, everyone had one. And I grew up in a small, like, conservative town. Like, we were really Christian back then. So everybody had one. They were not this, like, horrible, dangerous thing. And so I was like, what happened? Why is everybody so freaking out about Ouija boards? Now here's where the tape comes into play as I switch gears. Sorry, I am not a makeup artist. This is where the tape comes into play. I am taking this eyeliner all the way up past my eyebrow to make the wing. And then what I do is I actually use my eye wrinkles. I know. If you're older and you still want to wear a winged eyeliner, you can. But what I recommend is that you use the folds of your own eye. So I have a little wrinkle, and I just use that, and I use that as the start of my wing. And then once I have that triangle started, then I just take it and I follow it down to my eyelid. But I cut it a little bit short and see what it looks like first. It's not about pleasing everybody. It's really about what you like and what you want to accomplish with your makeup. So now that I have the wing, I'm just now going to line my full eye. All right, going back to the Ouija board. So back in the 80s, there was this really cool movie called Witchboard that took what happened in 1972 with The Exorcist and just took the Ouija board into a whole nother realm. And it was really after Witchboard came out in the early 80s that people really started being afraid of Ouija boards. So I did a whole bunch of research on like where the Ouija board came from. I learned so much doing that video. I actually was not aware that the Ouija board is uniquely an American invention. Like that, I thought was super cool. I can't talk during this part. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna line the inner corner of my eye. It's super hard to do. Different people have different techniques for it, but what I do is I start very minimally and then I just add, because it's easier to add than to take away. It's not the best I've ever done. It's a lot of times what I say. The problem with gel liner is that they can dry out, so I'm just gonna close this up while I am not using it. So now that I have the gel liner placed down, once again, I don't like using like face powders, but with extreme weather that I'm working with out at festivals, I will use the gel liner first, and then I will go in with a black powder eyeshadow to go over it with. This is from Tarte. It does actually have some shimmer in it, which you may not like on a day-to-day basis, but I actually use this same eyeshadow in daily wear in addition to my fairy festival makeup. So I take that same eyeshadow brush that I used in the cut crease and I just load it up with some black shadow, and I'm gonna go over that gel liner and really clean, soften up the lines. I just think that the black shadow just makes everything really sharp and also soft at the same time, if you will. All right, here comes from the controversial part. A lot of people use medical tape instead of plain tape, but I just use regular tape. I think you should peel it from the bottom to go to the top, because I've found that when I go from top to bottom, it can mess up the line. As you can see, like nice straight line. Tape is the secret. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go in and just clean up anything. My concealer has creased a little bit, so I'm just gonna go back in and just smooth out the concealer a little bit. Where the eyeshadow had come, because I didn't get the tape up high enough really on this side, I was able to kind of blend off that tape. Now we're gonna go crazy again. Gonna go crazy again. More pink. Yeah, I know. So I'm gonna go in with a more refined blending brush. This is just a smaller blending brush. I'm gonna go in and load that pink up. And I'm gonna put it underneath. Yeah. This is gonna be messy. And I just load it up. Like I bring this stuff down far. I am gonna leave it, like I don't go to the full corner, because I'll show you what I do there in just a minute. But I'm very careful to be cautious about the eyeliner that I put in the corner of my eye there. This also helps with the concealer, like the powdered eyeshadow does kind of keep my concealer in place. I'm just gonna go back in with that fluffy eyeliner brush and line my under eye, right underneath my lashes. I just wanted a little bit of a softer look than the gel liner there. I just wanted it to be a little more faded. Fully lining your eyes like I'm doing with the fairy makeup, it can make your eyes look smaller. So if you want to try this makeup look for yourself, that is something to keep in mind. But you know what? It's makeup, people. It washes off. And I really take care to join the gel liner in the corner of my eye to the softer black underneath of my eye, leaving a little bit of room on the outer corner of my eye. I don't go to the complete outer corner. I don't tight line. Tight lining just doesn't work for me. It doesn't last, and it can also like bleed in the extreme weather, so I don't do tight lining. Now that I have laid that down, I'm going back in with my gel liner. This is kind of the hard part now. This is also the reason that I did my blush first, because the eyeliner goes over that makeup. So I start out making kind of a fishtail, and I create a spiral near the apple of my cheek, sort of. It's different every time that I do it. So close enough is what I always say. I do the first swipe with all in one motion, and then I go back and darken up that line. And once again, I'm going back in with my black powder, and I'm just gonna tap this in just to really get that gel liner so that it's not going anywhere. Now, Stila used to make a black glitter eyeshadow, but when I went to purchase this again for the Fairy Festival season, I couldn't find it. So I am thinking that they probably discontinued the black, which is really sad because I really liked that black. So this isn't exactly what I want to do, but I'm going to load carefully load up my eyeshadow brush with the diamond dust, because if you can add some of the liquid eyeshadow to these lines, it just helps the eyeliner stay better. You get much less fading there. So if you really want like some intense eyeliner, you can go over those lines that you've created with one of these sparkle eyeshadows. But you don't want to wipe it. You just want to tap it on there because it can wipe away the work that you've already done. So you just want to tap it carefully. I don't mind the white, but I would have preferred the black, to be honest. So now that I've got my eyeliner on, oh yes, there's more. There's more. But before I go on, perhaps I'll let you know what my top favorite video that I've made. I'm sure you're shocked. It is another divination video. That was my questions that you should never ask the fortune teller video. I worked really hard on finding out what different fortune tellers and diviners and tarot card readers had to say about various questions. Once again, you have to appreciate that I grew up in a magical family back in the 70s and 80s. Things were very different then. My family magical teacher, my Aunt Maddie, she was very much a Christian, like really, really Christian. And there were no like rules, like there were no questions that you shouldn't ask, you know, it was everything was open. And I was really confused when people are like, oh, you shouldn't do that. And I'm like, okay. And I think another thing is like, I'm really proud of my age. I'm turning 52 this summer. I'm really looking forward to that. I'm really proud of my age, but I have observed that people generally think that I'm younger than I am. So, you know, they were trying to school me. You know, I love it when people are like, oh, you shouldn't do that, or where do you know? And I'm like, I've been practicing magic longer than you've been alive, so no. Yeah, so I do kind of like it when people are like, try to tell me what to do when it comes to magic. Yeah, like whatever, people. So what I'm doing now is I'm taking that white buxom powder and I am underlining the black, really getting it into that corner of my eye. When you fully line your eyes like this, like I said, it can make your eyes look smaller. A trick to open up your eyes a little bit more is to leave just a tiny space and do like a fish liner, and that will make your eyes look a little bit bigger when you have this big long rim. And not only am I going to, and this is just another very flat angled brush, and I'm gonna add a little bit of white under the black liner in the inner corner of my eye, right there. And going back to, as I go back and forth from makeup to videos, I really enjoyed doing that video because I really spent a lot of time analyzing what people found taboo and where and why those taboos were in place. I'm going to go in with my Lash Paradise mascara. I think this is L'Oreal. Once again, a drugstore brand. I always use waterproof mascara, just especially with the high heat and humidity that I'm dealing with. You don't want to use anything but waterproof mascara in a festival setting. I actually do my bottom lashes first. I do have very long lashes. I have long lashes. So if I try to do my upper lashes first, when I go to do the bottom ones, it messes up my makeup, so I don't like it. So I do the bottom ones first. I think the theme of my favorite videos is that I really learned a lot making them. So apparently I really love learning new things and sharing them with people. A lot of makeup artists, I'm not a makeup artist, a lot of makeup artists, when you're doing this kind of elaborate eyeliner, a lot of makeup artists believe that you should use fake lashes. But once again, in the context of a festival setting, for me, I just can't tolerate the feeling of fake lashes on my eyes. It's hard for the glue to last in those types of settings. I am now going to do the eyeliner on this side, and I'll see you in a few minutes. My curlicues, I never get them perfect. I look at myself in the mirror. I just try to eyeball the same angle. It's never the same. And that's okay, because one side of my face is definitely higher than the other. That's just how everybody's is. So it is what it is. Like sometimes my face is a little lopsided. I kind of like the imperfections. It goes with my scar on my face, it's who I am. And now that I have both eyes completely done, I know you're surprised. I'm going back in with that diamond dust and just adding a little bit to the white on those inner corners again. Why? Because you can never have too much glitter when it comes to being a fairy. There's no such thing as too much. The only thing left now is lips. Obviously, I can't talk while I do that. I'm just going to go back in with that Stila liquid lipstick. This stuff is amazing. It goes nowhere. It's awesome. Love this stuff. I use a lip brush. This is just an e.l.f. lip brush. Very inexpensive. It's just an angled lip brush. I think that really where you should shell out your cash is on the products rather than the brushes, because you can find really great affordable brushes and you don't need to buy really expensive ones. So save your money for the good stuff like the Stila liquid lipsticks. I don't overline my lips. I have very small lips. And with my scar that I have here, I don't overline them. I just go with my natural line. It is what it is. Makeup isn't for anybody other than myself, so you don't have to like it, I like it. I just take my liquid lipstick, I fill a brush, and I just make a line of my lips. So I don't use a different liner to line my lips. I just use the liquid lipstick itself. I'm just going to go in with the doe foot and fill everything in. I tend to keep the doe foot in the center of my mouth and use the brush to fill in the corners, because that way I have more control and the color isn't going to bleed outside of my mouth. Stila does have glitter versions of many of their liquid lipsticks, and those are beautiful and I love them. Anastasia also has some great glitter glosses. This was actually a gift from my last trainee from my police department, actually. So it's nostalgic. And I wear this quite often normally, but in the context of a festival setting in those really hot long hour conditions where I'm actually doing a lot of talking and singing as well, I can't, the glitter lipsticks, for whatever reason, they just don't last as well as the matte Stila liquid lipsticks. So I'd rather have the bold color rather than the glitter. So I don't wear glitter on my lips. It just ruins everything. It just doesn't stay. So I just don't do it. I don't do it. I did notice that there was a little bit of cracking here in the corner of my mouth. So I'm just gonna go in with this brush and smooth that out. Same thing with around my nose. I'm just gonna smooth everything out. All right, well, everything looks pretty good. So I'm gonna do one final step. This is the most important. So I do not use powder. It just settles into my fine lines. Putting any kind of powder, especially baking, I don't do that. I steer clear from powders, and what I do instead is I use Urban Decay's All-Nighter Setting Spray. This stuff is just a miracle worker, like intense. So I heard that you're supposed to shake these. I didn't know that before, but anyway, you shake them up and don't spray it in your mouth though, it tastes bad. But anyway, so you just spritz that on. It's like hairspray for makeup. It's awesome. Highly recommend. I never go anywhere without this stuff. It's amazing. I wear this, I use setting spray daily. I use this instead of powder. It just works much, much better on dry, mature skin. Which, I don't know about you, but I have never found a makeup artist on YouTube where they talk about being mature and they talk about being dry. So if you know of one, please leave a comment down below and let me know who you're following, because I want to follow them too. And here we have the finished look. Shall I do some, like, do the whole glamour pose, you know, that the makeup artists do? Sorry, I'm making fun of myself because I would not be a makeup artist. And I'm too lazy to go and put my wings on, so there we go. So it is what it is. So I do hope that you enjoyed this video. I once again want to say thank you so much for joining me on this journey. I've learned so much on YouTube. Thank you for being here as I've made all of my mistakes. I do want to let you know that I do have a playlist of my favorite videos in addition to the 5 that I mentioned on this video. I believe there are 20 of my favorite videos in that playlist. So if you're looking for something fun to binge, that might be something that would interest you. So moving forward into the rest of 2023 and also 2024, if you have a suggestion for the kinds of videos that you would like to see me do, please leave your suggestions in the comments down below. And with that, my fair friends, have a magical day.